Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. Today, we are finishing Elantris. That is chapters 61, 62, 63, and the Epilogue of Elantris, wherein the book ends. Lots of crazy stuff happens. Rauden fixes the magic. People start dying left and right. Some of them kind of don't quite die all the way, and then they're fine because they become full-on Elantrians. It's a whole thing, basically. So, I am Data, and with me is
Jamie.
Joe, and I'm making dinner.
And Dak, and I'm not.
Oh, goodness. So, yeah. Hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wire, smash the gene in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
So, yeah, this is it. We're done with this book, except for the few little bits and pieces from the post story that we're going to read for next time. So what did you guys think of Elantris and how everything wrapped up?
Yeah, this was a book, and it ended. I would say, as a standalone book, I would say that I would rate it pretty high. It's a good book, very abrupt ending, but I think we figured out that's kind of Brandon's thing. So there were a few things that I was dissatisfied with, but overall on the whole, I would say that these last chapters were very cool. I liked most everything that happened in them. Basically, the revitalization of Elantris, it doesn't even though the ending is quite abrupt and it happens very fast, it also doesn't feel like we didn't earn it, like it felt like we did kind of earn it. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed the ending.
Yeah, I agree. I get a feel that it's earned. I mean, they worked the whole book to make the magic work, and so when he finally fights through his own death to make the magic work, you're like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I would say the only super disappointing thing about the magic system is that you don't get to see enough of it. Well, at least you don't get to see enough of it where it's actually working.
Yeah, I can see why you'd say that.
Cool. Yeah, so I liked what was in the chapters. I feel like we got answers to many things. I don't know, on the whole, I felt just a little like, oh, okay, well, that was the end. I don't know. I didn't really have that. I don't know what I was looking for, like a bit of a wow factor or something at the end. I don't know what I was expecting, but it just didn't quite hit it. But having said that, I still enjoyed everything that happened. It's just that it all came very quickly. Like even from a Sanderlanche perspective, it was kind of like, boom, it's done. I was like, whoa, okay. And I don't know if it's just because we've come off Mistborn where we had sort of 3 books of all this stuff and obviously a lot more time to tell the story, but I do agree with Joe that it was a bit disappointing to not see more of how the magic works. And, I feel like they've introduced, okay, well, the magic that the Darkcore monks are using and, Shuden with his little ballet dance, he's obviously tapping into something somehow too. It just, yeah, I feel like there's still so much that really didn't get explained. I really want to know more about, Eventio and Keen as well. And it's like you've thrown in there that he's actually this pirate that you've been talking about forever, and then nothing else happened with it. So I'm not sure that I'm fully satisfied with some of the story, but the stuff that got wrapped up I really liked, if that makes sense. Like I didn't dislike the ending. I just feel like there's more that I wanted from it. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I like that's the one that you point out is the brothers and wanting to know more about them, because at the end of the book, Serene totally says the same thing. She's like, I want to know more about that. I'm gonna figure it out one of these days.
Yeah, and it's like, if we had another book coming or something, I feel like I probably would have felt more satisfied with how this ended, knowing there was more possibly to be told. And look, maybe there is more to be told somewhere in the Cosmere that ties into it. I don't, maybe there's adventures of Crushed Throat or something. I don't know, but it would be. Yeah, I feel like we've kind of ended the story and it's just like, oh, okay, well, that's it. But having said that, I liked it. I liked the battle. I liked that we finally got, Adian's steps made some sense in the story and that we could travel using the magic But, you know, the time, I guess, where we really had the opportunity to use the magic, they were too far away from Elantris and it wasn't strong enough to use it, you know, appropriately, I guess. So that was a little bit sad, but, you know, we definitely got more from Dilaf's side of thing with the magic. And, yeah, like Raiden's change of heart and, you know, then he ended up saving them all and just casually dropping in there that he's come to love Serene. I was like, oh, really? And now he's dead, and that story's over. But like, yes, so I liked it. It's kind of a really weird double feeling about it. I liked it. I liked the story. I think it was quite fun, and you know, I think it's a really good story and a good book. I think there's just something just a little bit more missing for me.
I do like that you pointed out that we've been talking about this one magic, this whole book, the magic that didn't work, and then as we get into the end here, we find out that the Decor monks have their own sort of magic, and Shuden even seems to have some glowy magical stuff going on with his thing that he did. So there's like other magics in the world, but we only get a little taste of it at the very end. So that's kind of it's definitely enticing. Like, wait, what? I want to know more.
Yeah. I don't feel the story would have suffered if we didn't have like Shuden's little dance. You know, if he'd just fought, I feel like we wouldn't have missed out and there probably wouldn't have been that question. But yeah, maybe something else happens on this planet or we learn more about the system, even if it's not necessarily an Elantris story, but maybe we get answers somewhere else in the Cosmere.
Yep, eventually we're going to get to The Emperor's Soul, which is a short story, or rather a novella that takes place on the same planet at least. So
okay,
there's some opportunity there.
Cool.
Yeah, like this is all right. Like the book is fine. I think overall probably an unfair comparison, but it's like it didn't satisfy me as anywhere near as much as the ending of either Final Empire or Hero of Ages did. So just I don't know. I sort of got to the end of the book, and the first thing that popped into my head was like, so after all that, two of the main characters that we have followed through this entire book didn't once even talk to each other. Like there was nothing between Hrathen and Raoden, and for some reason that really got under my skin. I'm like, I don't know. It just, yeah, that really bothered me for some reason. Like, and just looking back, like, you know, there were opportunities for that to happen, and they just never eventuated. So I feel like, and looking back at some of the other things I've said about this book in the past, I do feel like a lot of the things about this book are missed opportunities, which obviously not the story that Brandon wanted to tell, and that's, you know, it's his book, it's his thing, but it just wasn't quite as satisfying to me as some of the other stuff we've read. Yeah, the whole thing about Hrathen falling in love with Serene is like, okay, not sure that really needed to be a thing, but whatever. But like as far as the action goes, it was all really satisfying, and I do like that, you know, Hrathen came back and he was the one to stop Dilaf. I love that Galadon basically like brought the army across, like just brought in the cavalry, and like all the Decor monks were just like, yeah, we've got you now. All of a sudden all the Elantrians appear out and just like, yep, fry them. So like
that was
there was
cool.
there was
that
a lot
was
of
like
really
the
fun
cinematic moment.
Yeah, there was like a lot of really fun, really cool action, but the overall emotionals and the emotional stakes of the book, I'm just like, it didn't quite grab me as much in the end as it probably could have. But yeah, on the whole, still a good book, but not my favorite of what we read so far.
Yeah, I get that. It's funny you mentioned that scene, because even though I've already, that scene always, I'm not expecting what happens. Even though I've read this book several times now, by the time I get there, I'm like, oh, right, these guys just show up. Because when Raoden leaves and they're all like, you're insane, it's like, there's no way that anyone's going to follow him. He's doing the most insane possible thing that has like a 0% chance of actually working. So when everybody else shows up, it's like, wait, what? At least that's the way I always take it. Maybe somebody else saw it coming, but I'm always surprised somehow by that.
Yeah.
Yeah. To Dak's point about, like, you get these characters that don't even talk to each other. Sometimes I got the feeling while reading this book that Serene is really supposed to be the main character, like the actual main character throughout the entire book. And maybe like Brandon was, when he wrote this, he was like, well, I can't make a female the main lead of the entire book. So he did this weird like split triumvirate thing. But like both of the characters interact with Serene, but Serene doesn't, but they don't interact with each other. So like, and then they're both in love with her. So it's, yeah, I almost get the sense that like maybe it was like originally intended for her to be the main character and then that was scrapped somehow. I don't know.
Well, it's actually interesting because when you think about it, Rowden doesn't talk to almost anybody outside of Elantris, and Hrathen doesn't talk to many people at all, like named characters. He doesn't talk to anyone from inside Elantris ever. He talks to Serene. He like says something to Eondel one time, and he talks to like Telri and the King one time. But nobody else in the book has, other than obviously like Dilloff or whatever. But I mean, nobody else in the book has conversations with him. Like Hrathen and Rowden are both in their own little worlds, kind of, and Serene is the one who's moving around between everything. So you're kind of right.
It just strikes me as odd, like that. At the end, Hrathen and Raoden are very similar. Hrathen is trying to get people to follow him. Raoden is very good at getting people to follow him. So, like, even if they just had one conversation when they thought Hrathen was an Elantrian and it ends with Hrathen telling him to, bugger off, like, that still would have been something. But just the fact they never once spoke in the entire book, I'm like, you two are the leads. Like, you never even crossed paths.
Yeah, I mean, I think the closest they got was when he opens the doors and like Rowden or for Serene to walk out, and they like look and they share a look at each other, and I think that's the closest they get to actually talking.
Yeah, no, that just didn't sit right with me for some reason. Like it just felt like a bit of a missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everyone was expecting more to come out of Hrathen's stay in Elantris, like that he would run into some of these people and find out some of this stuff and whatever, and like nothing came out of that, so it feels like a lot of missed opportunity there.
Yeah.
Although story-wise, I get it, because like...
Oh, yeah, like thematically, that section, like it made sense and it fit what Brandon wanted to do with the character. I just felt that it wasn't as exciting or interesting as if he'd actually gone deeper into Elantris and found out more about it from the inside.
Okay, I guess let's get into these chapters. So we start out with Dilloff about to cut Serene's neck right in front of her dad. He's like, watch while I kill your daughter. And then Hrathen decides that, no, this is wrong, and punches him right in the face. Now, did anyone see this coming before we got to this point?
I didn't see the punch to the face specifically coming, but I would say that I kind of had an inkling every time they talked about his armor that it was actual, like they said that it was for show, but that I don't know, something in the book kind of made me think like, I wonder if that armor really is like actual armor, like his armor. He's the type of dude who would be like, nah, I'm really going to wear some armor. And turns out I was right.
Yeah, I figured it was armor, like a real armor, but it was red for show, the dramatic effect.
Yeah, I remember when I think it was the first time Serene sees him, and she's like, oh, look at that plate armor he's wearing. And then she's the one who I think tells us, like, yeah, they put on a show with that stuff, but like nobody could walk around in that armor all day, every day doing normal stuff. So it's got to be like really light just for show armor. And so at some point, like that idea gets planted in our heads way back when, and it pays off here. Where he's like, Dilloff's like, but that's just for show. And he's like, you should know by now, Dilloff, nothing I do is just for show. Hrathen gets a cool line there. And then he yells at Eventeo, get your ships out of here. The armies are going to come and kill you all. Save your people, so on and so forth. And he's like, but I want my daughter. And he's, I'll help your daughter. Save the kingdom, you fool. And like all the other like evil Decor monks are standing there stunned by what just happened. Like that dude Gjorn just punched our Gragdet. What the hell? That's nuts.
all these monks made of bone armor are just like, hey, follow the chain of command, buddy.
And then we cut to Rowden, who is in the water. They put him in the water at the end of the last of the mystery lake pond thing in the mountain at the end of the last chapter. And the lake's like,
well, he
come
tripped
on.
into the water.
Yeah, they took him all the way up there with the intention of throwing him in. So it's just like, hey.
It's like those people who are like just asleep and they have that nightmare where they spring up awake, but they're on the bottom bed of a bunk bed and they smack their head on the bed above them. It's like that, but with a pool.
The water's like, come on, I will give you release. And Rowden's like, no. We get a quick flash of that.
So anyway, instantly I saw that and I was like, so you're talking to the Shard, eh?
Maybe. Talking to something. Unless it's all in his head somehow. That's possible, I guess.
Yeah.
We cut back to Lukel, where the Fjordals have all the Elantrians in a pile, and they're throwing oil on them, getting ready to torch them. And Shuden's just off to the side doing his circle motions. And then he jumps in, punches one of the warrior monks in the chest, and there's an audible crack And then Shuden slaps him across the face, and his head twists completely around as his reinforced neck snaps. So, yeah, Shuden just took out one of those Decor monks with a slap, all while his eyes are closed also. And then Lukel picks up his table leg and moves in there to attack. And we cut away again. We got these rapid cuts at this point. Hrathen is running through the streets at night with Serene, trying to keep her safe while the monks are chasing him. And he's gonna try to fight. And she's like, no, you can't fight them all. We got to go. And we cut to Rowden bursting out of the water. And Galadon and Karada are like, wait, what the water's supposed to like disintegrate you. We've only seen it work one time. We just assumed it always would work exactly the same. But, oh no, I guess they've done it twice because they put, what's his name, the guard Saolin in there too.
Yeah.
Forgotten that. It says the cool blue liquid streamed from his face. It wasn't water, but something else, something thicker. And then he just tells them to come and stumbles to his feet. Cut back to Lukel and Shuden, who are fighting, but Lukel's not really much of a fighter, and so he's not doing super well. And what saves him for a little bit of time is the women. Finally, we get a little bit of payoff to Serene and her fencing lessons, as the ladies pick up fallen swords or pieces of wood and jump in to fight also. But none of them are really, despite their training, and even Shuden with his martial arts, none of them are really warriors like these soldiers. So Shuden gets a sword in his arm and falls down, and then a club to the head. And then Eshin gets a sword rammed through her chest.
Which, what a way to bring her back.
Right? For like half a second, Eshin is back, and then she's not.
I think, she's just been hanging around this whole time, this poor woman.
Like, everything about her has been awful. She got no wins in the end. She didn't even get a minor win here. She's like, she can use a sword. Instantly she's dead.
Yeah. Well, there's an interesting bit in the annotations about both of these things. So one of them says, realize that the Chei-Shan, that's Shuden's martial arts thing, wasn't ever intended to be effective or successful. I don't want it to be a deus ex machina for the people trapped in Elantris. It's a hint of things that I plan to do with the future of this world.
Sequel baiting.
Little bit. There's also, and I'm missing it, but there's a funny bit that I wanted to touch on here. Let me see if I can find it real quick about people dying.
Sound effects added to lessen tragedy.
Here's a line. Oh, it's a funny bit about people dying.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll get to it in a minute then. Yeah, sorry about that. And then he talks about how the the fencing bit is a payoff to all that Serene was doing, but once again, it wasn't intended to be like a thing that saved everyone. It was just he wanted to give the women, a chance to fight back and to show that they changed and their character developed some throughout the book. But it's not the thing that's going to save everyone. Neither is Lukel suddenly deciding to jump in.
Well, like you said, he doesn't even know how to use the sword.
Yeah,
frankly,
exactly.
It's amazing he survived it all.
Right? So he says, the women attack because it fulfills the form of this novel. This is a book about people who resist despite hopelessness, and it's about making use of your limitations to overcome your hardships. It's about the spirit of mankind. So yeah, anyway. We get Rowden running down the side of the mountain next, and I wonder if you guys had, like, how much you guys figured out from last time. We didn't really talk about it, but as Rowden realizes that all of Elantris and the cities around it are like a big Aeon, and so did you guys pick up at that time on the fact that, what we need to do is add that one line to the city to make the giant Aeon work?
No, I didn't pick up on that.
Okay.
No, I didn't pick up on it either. And I was a little bit confused about why he had to draw the line. I don't know. It might be baby brain. It could be really obvious to everyone else, but I was like, isn't the chasm the line?
Well, I mean, yeah, the
but
chasm
is that further out.
Well, the chasm is the line within the country, but it's not like
Right.
within the city of Elantris.
So this is a big Aeon
Mm-hmm.
that is also based on the layout of Elantris and the cities around it, where the chasm does run through.
Well,
Is that right?
all the Aeons are based on the country of Erelon, and
Yeah.
the chasm runs through the country. But
Yeah.
Elantris is built with the cities around it, is built as a giant Aeon. And so if you look at the map, like the chasm is actually way in the south of the country,
and
and
he had to put the
Elantris is way in
line
the north of the
back
country.
in. Yeah. Okay. I'm with you now. Because I read that bit a couple of times, and I was like, I understand that he's drawing a line, but I don't know why. And I just couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, I know it's the big fix, but I don't know.
And
Also, does it need to be a little bit more permanent?
Well, and that's Brandon says in the annotation. So he's like, I tried to build in several times as we talked about it in Andor at different times, that it doesn't matter what you make the lines out of. You can use your fingers, or you
that's
can
right,
use
yeah.
whatever.
You can put it in
And
dust.
so, yeah, exactly. And so
That's
it was okay
right.
for him to just scratch the line.
I mean, it would have been a pretty slow burn if you had to build like a permanent wall or
He had to
something.
build a wall.
Caledon, get me a shovel.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Rated
Guys, you gotta give
2020.
me, like,
We're
3
gonna
hours.
build that wall.
I wonder if he did that later. If he like went back and once he's king and adds a wall there.
Draws the Aeon for bulldozer.
Oh man. Okay, so then Raud is just running down the mountain, like all out. He's got to get back there to fix the stuff. We come back to Serene, who she and Hrathen are hiding out. They're like, no, we got to stay down. They end up in somebody's house, and she tells the family, yeah, stay in here. Don't come out unless you have to. And Hrathen starts pulling off his armor, which he explains. He's like, I no longer deserve this. And I'm like, okay, but dude, you're fighting all these guys. Maybe you should go ahead and just keep it for now. Like, maybe.
Don't deserve it later.
Yeah.
Stay alive.
It's like they had to have a reason for him to get massacred and then come back somehow.
And like, she's like, you've been walking around in all these months with real armor? Wasn't that difficult? And he's like, the burden of my calling.
He pulls up the chest plate, and she's just like, damn, man, you are ripped.
It turns out now it's just he just wanted to take his shirt off in front of his love.
Yep, that's what it is. For some reason, it reads to me like Goku when he starts taking off the weights. He's like, do a little stretch,
Yeah.
jump around. And she's asking Hrathen, like, why did you do this? And he's like, what Dilof's doing is evil. And she's like, but your faith? He's like, my faith is in Jadeath. He wants devotion, not massacre. And she says, well, Warren seems to think differently. And he's like, let's just go. He doesn't want to have to deal with that because in this religion, you follow God through the people above you. So he's supposed to be doing whatever Warren says. He's not supposed to interpret God's will himself, according to Shudrath. So
I actually really liked this part of Hrathen's story because he was like the bad guy the whole way along, but his storyline of how he felt really bad about what happened in Duladel and not wanting to make the same mistakes and just like, I actually found this to be completely organic to his character. It's not like it was like, oh, I'm the bad guy, but I've had a sudden change of heart or anything. It was definitely true to what he wanted the whole time, and I actually really liked it. I thought that this part of his storyline was actually really fulfilling.
yeah, I agree with you because he from the beginning he's been like, he feels bad about what happened in Duladel. He does not want a massacre. He wants to do this the quote unquote right way. And then when it comes down to it, and it's like, well, we're gonna kill all these people. You've run out of your chance to do it the other way. Really, we were never going to give you that chance in the first place. That's when he's forced to confront his guilt, basically, and it's either let it happen again or change, essentially.
Yeah.
We cut to Raud and still running, and I like his bit where he's like, he knew if he stopped running, the pain would claim him again. He wasn't truly free. His mind was just on loan. Cut back to Lukel again, who's got a big old gash in his leg where they got him with a sword, and his wife's like trying to hug him and bind his wound and stuff. They throw a torch onto the pile of Elantrians, and the oil-soaked bodies burst into flames. The timing on this is not, and he says in the annotations, he's like, I'm cheating the timing on this a little bit because the quick cuts imply that these things are happening at kind of the same time, but it probably takes Rauden a good 20 minutes of running to get down the mountain. So, and then he has to drag the stick for a good long while to get the line drawn. So it's the way I interpret what he's saying here is we're probably jumping into the future with this a little bit where they're throwing the thing just to make it more urgent seeming. And Karada's like, what is he doing? As he's got a stick and he's trying to draw a line. And Galen's like, I don't know, but whatever it is, it's got to be important. We gotta make sure that he finishes. And that's when a bunch of guards show up, and Galen's like, come on, we gotta take him out. We can't let them stop him. And Rauden's barely aware of what's going on as he gets his stick and he has to draw. Karada gets her head separated from her body, so that's not good. Galadon gets a pair of swords in the stomach, and Rauden finishes his line, and then light explodes and things go crazy. And so the part where it talks about death is in the annotations. He says, look, I'm sorry for killing Karada. It felt like the right thing to do here, even though my readers universally disagree with that decision. This is an important series of events. If I didn't have any real danger for the characters, then I think earlier events where characters did die would come across feeling more weighty than this. So Karada and Galadon throw themselves on a troop of armed soldiers. There's no way for that to end well. And then, by the way, none of the readers have even batted an eye about Eshen's death. I guess she got on their nerves.
Yo.
Ouch. Take that, Eshen.
Yeah, I feel like we're being unfair to Eshen, but also I don't care.
But he also says that this...
Like Eshen deserved better.
I mean, yeah, she was never a bad person. She was a little flighty and stuff, but...
She had like one of the shittest non-Elantrian lives in the book.
Well, it's all over now.
Yep.
But he also says in the annotations that this is one of the moments that he had in his mind when he started writing this book, was this image of Rauden finishing drawing this line, and then light explodes from the ground and runs around the city. And so he says that this one scene I wish I could do cinematically rather than in text, because it would look cool.
Everything goes Avatar state.
So yeah, the light starts with the line that he just drew and then goes all around the city and the circle around the southern city, spreading along the wall of Elantris and the other 3 cities around. Soon all 5 cities were outlined with light, 5 resplendent pillars of energy. 1 square, 4 circles, Aeon Reo, the spirit of Elantris. So in case it's not clear, Elantris is basically like a big focus to channel and enhance the power of Aeon Door. And that's why things did not work super well, or as well as they expected before you fixed the Elantris Aeon.
Yeah, magic via architecture. Very strange, man.
Well, I mean, they talked about earlier how they had like plates of metal with Aeons drawn on them that made light for everybody. So, you know, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I guess.
And then people are, the Elantrians get better. The transformation completes. The Sheod transformation. Galadon even, he gets up and he's like, hey, I'm okay now. They didn't chop off my head. They just stuck swords in me. I guess that is not so bad.
I'm a pincushion.
And Rauden turns toward the soldiers and he's like, you have 1 hour. Go. And there's another thing in the annotations where he's like, so yeah, Rauden gives the soldiers and the monks a chance to leave. That's the kind of thing that happens in this book. If you want something more gritty, you could read Mistborn. Although even that's not as gritty as, I'm sorry. He says, which is gritty for me, though nowhere near the genius sadism of George R.R. Martin's books. Which, yeah, that's a way to put it.
Yeah, look, he's not wrong.
Yeah, he's not right, exactly, yeah. So, yeah, Lukel and his wife are watching the fire. Father Omen is sitting behind him praying. And then the light happens, and all of those Elantrians that were piled up and lit on fire start getting up and walking out of the fire perfectly okay. Everyone is so stunned that only the Decor monks manage to actually move. One of them screams in denial and dashes at the Elantrians with his sword. A flash of power shoots across the courtyard. Raoden has shown up, and it says, immolates the creature in a puff of energy. The sword dropped to the paving stones, followed by a scattering of smoking bone and burnt flesh. Well, ain't that nice?
First I took out the biology section, now I take out the biology.
And once again, Rowden's like, okay, you guys take your men to the docks, board your ships, and go. Anything Derethi, man or vessel, remaining in my country after the next hour's chime will suffer the force of my rage. I dare you to leave me with a suitable target. Hopefully that was intimidating enough, because he leaves in like 5 minutes or something, and then all the other Elantrians seem to follow him. So they're leaving their country a little bit unprotected. And then Lukel sees what's happening, and everyone's cheering that Elantris is back. And he says, how totally unexpected, and then faints from blood loss. I'm so glad we still have Lukel here for the comic relief. We cut to Dilloff, who is prodding his broken nose, and he's not very happy with Hrathen. I wonder why. And he thinks that it's all fine. Evantale will never get his ships launched in time. And also I have 50 of my Decor monks roaming around the city. Each one as powerful as 100 normal men. We're still going to win this. So, very eventful first chapter of our 3. We can move to the next one. Hrathen's plan is for him and Serene to just get out of Dodge. He's like, look, we'll go down here. We'll get on a ship. We'll leave. Everything will be good. we'll hide out in Hrovel. And Serene's like, no, I'm not leaving my homeland. And Hrathen's like, yeah, you are. Look, I know Dilloff. He's obsessed. If you stay here, so will he. If you leave, maybe he will leave too. I don't know if that's a good argument, that you're like, we can stay here where your father has an army to try to help protect you, or we can go somewhere else and he'll probably follow us there.
And also, do you want him to follow you there? I mean,
and he's in his own brain, like, she's not going to go with me, but why do I even care? She's my enemy. And she's like, you never really answered my question. Why did you turn against your religion? He's like, I don't know. I don't know, woman. I just, it turned out that the thing I grew to believe was not Shu-Korath after all. I don't know what it is. And she says, Shu-Korath? And he's like, no, it's not just like Shu-Korath versus Shu-Dureth. I believe in the Durethi teachings. I just don't, my problem is with Wyrn, not with God. And we get all this internal monologue about what happened in Duladel and all this stuff that's going on. And this is where I'm going to tell you guys about the first draft of this, which also had a crazy, for no reason, ridiculous reveal. In the original draft of the book, Hrathen turns out to have been from Duladel the entire time. It's revealed in this scene when he and Serene are running from the Decor that he was of Dula blood, having grown up there and then moved to Fjorden as a teenager. Yes, I know, I must have been tired when I wrote that chapter. Anyway, at one point, it must have seemed like a good idea. It didn't even make the first cut, however. My first readers rose up in open rebellion, and I joined them. I guess I must have decided that it was more dramatic to discover that Hrathen had betrayed his own people by destroying Duladel. Yes, I know it was stupid. We writers do stupid things sometimes. I didn't even pause to think that the drama of Hrathen betraying his own people and religion in the present is far more powerful than a betrayal that happened before the book even started. I was denying his entire character by trying to rely on some whim that seemed like a clever, unexpected twist. Writers, don't let yourselves do things like that.
His readers rose up in rebellion. I don't know what the hell happened.
But yeah, wouldn't that have been a weird, like, random reveal?
I'm just picturing all these people sitting in a book club, just standing up and just throwing their books to the side. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
What is wrong with you?
Don't you have any respect for your own characters? This makes no sense.
And there's also a thing here that says Serene doesn't get it. She has no clue how Hrathen feels, of course. He doesn't even really acknowledge it to himself, at least not until he's dying in the street. She keeps asking why, and he can't tell her because he won't even really admit it to himself. And then we get the reappearance of Fionn. Well, I don't think anyone was probably expecting that one.
Nope.
Yeah, I just imagined like a large guy who's gotten kind of fit, you know, because he had to go back and get trained a little bit, and he just like whipped a banana peel out in front of Hrathen, and Hrathen tripped on it. He's like, got him.
No, I guess he stabs him. It's not super clear. It's just all of a sudden Hrathen felt a pain in his chest, and he's bleeding, and he's like, wait, what the fuck?
He's a whiz with throwing knives. He used to be a magician.
So yeah,
for some reason in my head, there's nothing in the text to support it. For some reason in my head, he had a crossbow.
No, yeah, okay. He doesn't pull an arrow out or a quarrel out or anything, but yeah, I can see that. But no, it seems like they're moving in a crowd, because it says he looked out into the crowd and his eyes fell on the face of his murderer. So maybe he just like bumps up against him in this crowd and stabs him. Although they're running around in the darkness at night trying to avoid monks, so I don't know where this crowd suddenly came from. But this is where he admits in his head, it's like, oh, she would never know that he had come to love her. Goodbye, my princess.
Which, I mean, again, like, I feel like that sort of undermines his character arc a little bit. It's like, it would have been so much more satisfying. It's like, no, at the end of the day, he was just doing it because it was the right thing to do. And like, oh, it's also partially motivated on some level because he'd fallen in love with his opponent. I'm like, oh, really? That just, like, it just takes away from what he's learned.
I agree. It seems to muddle it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Dak's like, romance. Forget this.
But when you go back and read the book,
she is married
there's
to
a lot of
another,
hints
you
about
bastard.
it. So
yeah,
there's lots of times where he kind of cares about Serene and you're not sure why, and then you finally get it here that he's like, oh, he was kind of falling for her.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, it's not that it doesn't make sense in the context of the book. Like, even from like their first meeting up on the wall, where like he's just like, all right, you did very well. You took that confrontation away from me. Good job. It's like he respects her. So I can see how that would lead to the other. I just think that it clashes with the fact that he is like, he turned on his religion because it was the right thing to do. So
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, at the very least, it's like, it almost seems like he's trying to make it more noble than it is when he's like, no, this was the right thing to do. But really, maybe it was because of this other thing. So
Yeah. Plus, it's another one of those things, like, if this had been cut out of the book, the rest of the book would not be any different. So
no, you're right. I like that we get a Fionn viewpoint here also, where
Yeah.
it's his first kill, and he's like, man, it really was easy. Apparently, that was the test. You have to go knife a man, and you get into the assassin monastery.
Yeah, at first I thought maybe it was like a test. Go knife a random guy, and it was just happenstance that he got Prathan. But then as I read on, I was like, And I thought Brandon was just having some fun with us with that perspective.
it's like he was actually going for Serene, but he missed. He's like, close enough.
Well, and see, this is in the annotations. He talks about how this is another thing that he feels like might be almost like a twist, just for the sake of a twist, that he kind of was close to cutting out. But there's a reason that he kept it in there, because it's what it is setting up Wyrn as a more mysterious and powerful character. It says, I definitely meant to imply that Wyrn managed to see limitedly into the future and sent Fionn to a place where he'd be able to slay an important traitor to Fjorden.
Yeah, I did not pick up on that.
Well, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty subtle. There's the line from Hrathen where he's like, how did he find me here? And then there's the line from Fionn where he's like, man, how did Wyrn know that Fionn would find Hrathen here on the streets of Tyros, of all places? Weird.
Yeah.
And I like Fionn's perspective ends with a merry step. He went back to his inn and ordered breakfast.
Oh, I love that line. That was just so that really resonated with me.
Right? It's great.
Yeah.
And then we cut to Rowden, who's healing the wounded, and Lukel's like, no, leave me. I'm nearly dead. See the others. And Rowden's like, dude, stop whining. I don't know. It may be hard to remember now that Rowden has Galadon, but Lukel was his best friend before he went into Elantris. So that is just some old buddies messing with each other.
Was it Raiden would always let Lukel win at every game they play? So like Lukel's saying, no, leave me. I'm nearly dead. And Raiden's like, no, I get to win this one.
And after he's healed, Lukel's like, well, you could have at least left a scar. I went through it a lot to get that wound. You should have seen how courageous I was. My grandchildren will be disappointed that I don't have any scars to show them. And it's hard for me to remember when we get to this point. Rowden's like, I can't find Serene or Dilloff or Hrathen anywhere. Like, right, obviously he wouldn't know where they went. I'm not sure anyone knew where they were going except for the people who went.
Yeah, Dilloff did not leave the forwarding address.
Not so much. And so, even though they've won, they got Elantris magic back, turned everyone into Elantrians who were, zombies. Rowden's still not feeling good because Serene's not here, and she may be in trouble. Like, Galadon shows up with a bunch of other people who were, for the most part, disoriented because a lot of them had been Hoed for years and had no idea what was going on more recently. And that's when Ace shows up, and he's like, my lord, the princess, she's in Tyros, and the kingdom is under attack. Rowden's like, how the hell did she get there? Fair question, dude. You don't know about the thing where you sacrifice a guy to transport yourself. It's messed up. Really, the more we find out about this, like, Fjordal magic, the more it's like, wow, Aeon Door is so much better. Like, you draw a thing, and then it does that same stuff, but you don't have to kill anyone for it. Like, here in a minute, Dilloff is like, oh yeah, I had to kill, like, 50 people had to die to give me this one power that I have. Cut back to Serene, and Dilloff is approaching, and she's like, oh no, this is bad. Shit's about to go down. Rowden gets up on top of the wall, and he's like, Seon, show me the exact direction of Teod's capital. And we established earlier, I don't know if you guys remember, that Seons have, like, perfect sense of direction, basically. It came up when Serene Aish was leading her through the sewers. And so, basically, he built that into the story specifically for this moment. And when Galadon realizes what Raiden's about to try to do, he's like, are you insane? You can't do that. Like, you told me you could transport yourself, like, right into a brick wall or something. You have no idea how far you have to go. What are you doing? And Rowden's like, no, I gotta do it. I gotta try. I can't leave her there. And that is when Adian shows up. And once again, this character is built into the story for this one moment where he knows how many steps you have to take to get from here to where Raiden wants to go. Somehow. He can't even explain it himself. And he's kind of better now. Turning into an Elantrian sort of fixed some of what was going on in his head. But he still can do the footsteps thing. And he's like, I don't know how I know, but I know that's how many steps it takes.
The Shard is just like, I need someone on this planet to be the numbers guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need a Rain Man and fast.
And so Raiden transports himself using the steps as a guide. And Galen's like, "This is insane." And he says, "You're in charge until I get back, dude." And he transports himself with Aeon power.
Yeah, so it's a lot like Aquaman power. It sounds like whoa, 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 and then you like show up.
And we cut back to Serene. Dilaf's about to kill her, and all of a sudden light appears, and a dude just pops out.
The dude pops out, huh?
Well, actually, I guess the first thing she sees is a spray of light crashing into one of the monks, throwing him through the air, and then a dude runs out. As the other monk's like, "Wait, what was that?"
It's not quite Thor landing in Wakanda, but it's not bad.
Yeah, it's all right. It's no Hulk jumping out or Bruce Banner jumping out onto the bridge and breaking his neck.
That is true.
Yeah,
Raiden needs
it's
like
something.
a Stormbreaker axe. Like, who cut off Thanos?
Oh yeah,
head?
where's
Stormbreaker.
where's Andon's axe?
Yeah, where's that thing?
Oh, you mean Keen's axe? Oh no, Andon's axe, the
No.
fire
No,
axe.
no.
You're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
The fire axe that made such a big deal. The very axe he was
The
using
very
the day
axe.
that he.
The very axe.
I wonder if that guy survived.
That would have been great. It would have been a great callback for him to be like the
Um,
very axe that Andon had again, like he did it twice.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
like, guys, the axe, it's back.
Tan did survive.
Did he? Okay, good.
Well, all of the people in that village became Hoed, and then they were being burned. But then when he fixed it, it somehow didn't burn them anymore. I didn't understand that.
They
but-
weren't. I guess they weren't burnt enough
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
actually die. Because I mean, there's plenty of Elantrians who had burned before.
I guess
so-
what I'm confused about is if you're an Elantrian at full power, does fire not hurt you? And like that's the part that confused me. Like
Yeah, I don't know.
like they just walked out like ballers, like yeah, fire, no big deal.
Maybe
we
it was
all
just like
magically know how to use the Aeons now.
good question. I was thinking maybe
Yeah,
they're
or
still
maybe
like
there's like a. Go ahead.
I was gonna say maybe they were still like in the process of the transformation as they walked out, so there was a little grace period before stuff hurts them again.
Mm.
Yeah, or maybe there's like a ward in the city where like fire can't hurt people.
Mm,
Because that would make total sense, because they've built they've etched all that stuff into the walls.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rauden, he grabs her and he's like, "Hold on," he's gonna transport them out real quick. I like this picture of him like transporting in and grab. It's like a Nightcrawler moment where he's gonna grab her and like transport away real quick,
Ooh,
but it
I
doesn't
thought
quite
about that,
work.
but you're right. That's awesome.
He's like, my name is Kurt Wagner.
He swings the sword around. Ha ha!
They do transport, but they just don't go
Yeah.
real far. 50 feet down the street, they can see the monk standing there.
He's like, I can only teleport where I can see. I'm sorry, Fraulein. And then there's another Bamf, big onomatopoeia right in the middle of the book.
But Rauden's like, "Shit, I forgot. The Aeons get weaker the further you go from Elantris." Well, and for one thing, the Aeons are connected to the land, even apart from the extra power boost from Elantris. They the further away you get from Erelon, the less good they are, or the less useful they are. I feel like you could just keep jumping 50
Magic
feet at a
can't cross
time.
running water.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So could they not make, and maybe this does happen, but could they not make Elantris-like cities in other parts of the world, and then the magic would also be boosted from that?
Oh, so like a Wi-Fi range extender, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed like, if you remember back to Secret History, it seemed like those guys had found a way to pipe energy
Somehow
from
siphon it. somewhere. Yeah, maybe
they had
Elantris, maybe their planet.
Yeah, they had a big glowy cord attached to the back of their
Mhm.
fortress, going off into the distance. So maybe there's a way to.
That's right. The fortress is plugged into the Elantrian generator.
Yeah. That's why
That was
they
also
all
the
look-
cognitive
they all
realm,
look
though,
messed
so-
up too.
That's
In the
true.
cognitive realm, they look all messed up because they're too far away from Elantris, so the power's not working right.
I guess there's not really a time that this comes out necessarily, so I'll just tell you guys that the Irie, they are people who left the planet before the Rayod,
Ah.
or at least for the most part. I guess it's possible they got some newer members, but that's the group mostly left, so they were never affected by the Rayod, basically.
Oh, so
Yeah.
were we wrong? Were they not all weird looking?
They're a little different looking, but I think mostly, I mean, Rauden now has silver skin and white hair and stuff. So
Yeah.
I think mostly they still look pretty much like Elantrians. It's just at the time they seemed really weird to us because we'd never seen something like that before.
I guess I thought in Secret History, like, described that one lady like as old looking, like she looked like her skin was wrinkled and stuff. But
Yeah,
maybe not.
I think you're right.
Really decrepit.
Maybe
But
she's
maybe
just
she
older.
was just. I was about to say maybe she was just a super old Elantrian.
Hmm.
So they go off on their own because they were like, we don't like the happy-go-lucky Elantrian culture here. We want to do our own thing.
Who knows? I mean, maybe there was an international or interplanetary trade route running through here also, and they were business people off doing business, or who knows?
Yeah, I'm a businessman, big businessman.
And he says in the annotations that basically trying to use the Aeons where he is now, they'd be about as powerful as they were before he fixed Elantris when he was back in Erelon. So it's like unamplified here, or far enough away that it's basically ends up being the same thing. And Serene's just really confused because she didn't know anything that happened since she left. So she's like, why is Rowden cool now? How's he transporting me? He looks very different than he did not long ago. How did he recover from the horrible wound that he had? Because the last time she saw him, Dilloff was like shoved a sword through his stomach or something. And so they're running, and apparently Rowden's new body is pretty badass because he's like, I could probably outrun these monks on my own, but not trying to take Serene through these streets. And they just happen to see the king like down the street. They're like, hey, let's go get to that guy. So yeah, a bunch of bad guys. And Serene says, not much of a rescue. He's like, yeah, okay, next time I'll bring an army with me, okay? And that's when the army shows up. Yay! Hundreds of silver-skinned forms pop out, and Galadon's like, Aeon Da! What is Aeon Da? Do we know that one?
Wasn't that the fire one?
Maybe
Or am I
you're
wrong
right.
about that?
Let's see. Aeon Da is power or energy, the preferred offensive weapon of Elantrians.
Basically a Kamehameha.
Yeah. The light strikes its target with considerable explosive force. So yeah, very Kamehameha. Yeah, you're right. 200 hands start drawing Aeons, and about half of them actually manage to complete the drawing. But it takes out some monks, and Dilloff was the only one of his men who thought to duck. The rest, confidently arrogant in their strength, simply allowed the powerful blast to hit them. Idiots.
I guess you don't have to be smart to be a Dark Hole.
Guess not. I mean, in fact, given what we've seen, I think maybe you have to be kind of dumb. Because Hrathen's like, this is ridiculous. You're killing someone to travel a distance you could walk in 15 minutes? I'm not going to sit around like, you're going to throw my life away for some stupid shit like that. I think it's the dumb ones who are like, oh, this is awesome. I'm in.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so a bunch of monks go down real quick, and Dilloff is like, it says Dilloff is the only one who has the power to be resistant to attacks by the door, something that had required the death of 50 men to create. Ugh. So everyone else is getting torn apart, and after the first volley, the remaining monks are badly outnumbered. So Dilloff's like, I'm gonna go. And really, it's not that he's cowardly exactly, it's that he's like, okay, we're not gonna win doing this, and there's still a chance that I can win if I play this smart. And so energy hits him, but his bone wardings leave him unharmed. And Serene points out that Dilloff is running, and Ron's like, okay, let's go get him. Which maybe you should have thought that through. Take a couple more guys at least. Because they head off after him down an alley, and he immediately pops out and tackles Rowden. It's spilling silvery white Elantrian blood. So even their blood is like silver and white. It's weird.
Ew.
Yeah, what other like fantasy creatures have like silvery blood? Unicorns in Harry Potter. They got silver.
That's true, yeah.
Raven
is a unicorn.
Unicorn?
Yep.
I mean, sure.
Oh, but here's the part where he tries to put up a wall with an Aeon, and Dilloff just kind of touches it and makes it go away. And he's like, oh, right, this is the guy that like made my illusion disappear just yesterday. That was just yesterday, guys, when he was crowned king. It seems like
Did we already get to the part where he talks about like, yeah, it took 50 men deaths to give me that power?
I said
Jeez,
that's
messed up.
I know, right?
Ugh. Killing a guy to go 15 minutes away. Killing 50 guys. See, like, this is why I feel like there's a lot of parallels between this, some of the, like, magic and how it works as in Mistborn, like, these, Dakor monks, like, killing people to make their powers work. It's very reminiscent of hemalurgy, I feel like, and making spikes. And, and so there's just like little pieces in there that I'm like, yeah, that seems very similar
You're right.
to
It
how
does.
that other stuff works.
And it may just be that similarities to, because they're in the same universe, to like the laws of how the universe works. But yeah, that's an interesting point. And Dilloff has cut Rowden up a bit with his sword and beat him up some, because Rowden, despite being a good leader and an Elantrian and stuff, he's not really a warrior. He was trained in fencing,
No.
but that doesn't mean that he's this guy who's extra strong, extra fast, and trained to fight. Dilloff laughs, tapping Rowden on the side of the face with the tip of his sword. The Skays are right then. Elantrians are not indestructible.
Ooh, the Skays. Something that's mentioned that we'll never understand.
So Skays are essentially, and like you don't really see or hear much about them, but Brandon has said, so I can tell you, stuff that he said. But the Skays are basically like evil Seons.
Oh,
They're not
dark
Seons.
huh?
Yeah, they're not Seons who have become evil. They're like a different species, I guess, but similar to Seons and evil.
I wonder why the Gjorns would use regular Seons then. That seems.
Well, I don't know that the Skays have the same power or anything like that.
Oh,
They're
okay. I
they're
guess that
similar
makes sense.
to Seons. That doesn't mean they can do everything the Seons do.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of trash talking black balls.
Yeah. Later, Raiden's like, oh, Ian's different. Maybe he's a Skays now. Bum, bum, bum. No, not really.
He bounced 3 meters in the air. Then he bounced 1.8 meters in the air.
My people tell the same story.
Oh, oh man. And
You bounce in peace.
oh, those balls. They should have gotten more time. The spheroids from Spheron 1.
Yeah.
We have seen too many body bags and ball sacks.
Just when Dax said black balls, for some reason that's the first thing that came to mind was he's like evil black balls. Yep, or trash talking
Yeah.
black balls. I was like, they're not black, but yeah, they're trash talking. Sure.
When he said that, I thought of the space, the space dragon. No, not the space dragon balls. What are the ones in GT that are like evil dragon
Oh,
balls?
the
Basically.
Black Star Dragon Balls.
Yeah, the
Black
Black
Star.
Star Dragon balls.
Yep.
There you go.
With the evil dragons or whatever.
Yeah, evil Omega Shenron or whatever.
I've never actually seen that one, but I've read about it. So
It's not. GT's alright, I guess.
They actually, no, like the evil dragons had nothing to do with the Black Star Dragon Balls. That was just a separate set that blew up the Earth.
There you go.
yeah, because
Yeah,
whenever you make
see,
a wish, the
they-
planet explodes after a year or something.
Yeah,
right?
like the evil dragons came out of the regular Dragon Balls when they broke.
yeah. Okay.
That's what it was. Yeah, I never watched that all the way through. GT falls victim to being very of the time. It came out in Japan in the 90s, so all the clothes are like really weird and the show is weird. Vegeta has a flat top for some reason. It's
He had
weird.
a mustache.
Yeah, he did have a mustache.
Mustache.
Mustache of leadership.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe.
Yeah.
Vegeta was never a real good leader, I have to say.
No. Unless you're playing the card game, and then, his leader cards were okay.
But it's just like
card game.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
It was great. It was an awesome
Joe was
card
real
game.
into the card game.
Yep, and then my community died, but the nice thing is the card game's still very popular, so I've sold a lot of my cards for way more than I paid for them.
Nice.
But yeah, it's like he shows up when like Nappa. I mean, I'm just saying it's a good thing he was never king of the whole planet of Saiyans, because he does not treat people under him well. When Nappa fails, he disintegrates him.
Yeah, you displeased me. He learned from Frieza. We got to cut him a break.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And this has been the Dragon Ball section of this podcast.
So yes, Dilloff is monologuing a little bit. He can't help bragging about how he's still gonna win. Rin's fleets will defeat the Tio Armada. Well, my troops will march on Elantris. And then Serene's like, nobody beats the Tio Armada, bitch. And she comes out of nowhere with a sword, and they have a sword fight. But good at fencing, Serene may be. She's not good enough to beat this guy.
Yeah, this guy's real good.
So he takes
Also,
out
like she's
both of them.
she's relying on stabbing, and he's made out of bone. So
Yep.
Yeah.
He's got-
He also has like a lot of monk training, and he's been alive for like 70 years or something.
Right. Rowden's just like, no one could be expected to win a sword fight against one such as Dilloff. And like Dilloff's like, my revenge begins. You may stop yelling, my love. Because remember, his dead wife's still screaming in his brain.
Sure. He's a freak. I get it.
And he's going to sword them to death when all of a sudden, here comes Hrathen. And Rowden does not know that Hrathen betrayed him. Rowden's like, why is Dilloff not happy to see his friend? Sword comes down and Hrathen blocks with his arm. And everyone's like, what the? And so he's like, oh my gosh, he's one of them. And so his arm, which he's kept hidden all this time under clothing and a sleeve even when he was shirtless, has the twisted patterns beneath the skin of the decor bone stuff.
Makes sense. If he was there, he probably started the process and then it's like, nah, I'm out.
Apparently Dilloff did not remember because he's surprised by this.
Which is funny because in an earlier chapter he's like, yes, I remember you. I remember doing this to you. He's like, oh, wait, we actually did do that to him. Shit, I forgot.
Exactly.
Oh, wait, you're the guy I was talking about before. Oh, man.
Maybe just without the armor, he just didn't recognize Hrathen.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like, some shirtless guy.
Yeah, he's shirtless and bleeding.
How dare you interrupt me when I'm killing people?
Yeah.
But then Hrathen gets his very badass moment here where Dilloff fucking just puts a sword in him, in his side, and he picks him up by the neck and he holds him up and just like breaks the dude's neck before he then falls down and dies himself. And so as ways to go out, that's pretty badass.
I mean, it was cool. It was pretty abrupt.
Yeah.
Also, whatever.
Well, this is another scene that was completely different in the first draft. I'll tell you guys about that because it's funny. Hrathen just died after getting attacked by Fionn in the original draft. He never comes back. And what happens is Brandon had built in this bit of the magic system that ends up not in this version and that I don't think is ever going to come back, where a Seon could, quote unquote, complete the Aeon at the center of them to like cast it one time in a very powerful way, but it would kill them. So basically they can like do one really awesome thing, whatever their Aeon is, but they die in the process. And so
was it going to be Aish?
No, in the original version, Ian shows up,
Ian heals,
completes his healing Aeon, except that his Aeon is still broken because of Rowden turning into an Elantrian. So his healing doesn't heal. It turns Dilloff into one of those half-turned Elantrians like his wife was. Just the same way the incomplete healing Aeon messed up his wife, it messes up Dilloff in the same way.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been cool, but I feel like at the same time it would have like kind of been messed up. Like you don't want to be as bad as what the enemy thinks you are, you know? It just seems it would be kind of messed up, I feel like, to do that.
Brandon and his editor felt like it was very Deus Ex Machina, like all of a sudden, like, because even though they'd established that it was something an Aeon or a Seon could do, you never saw it or anything until this moment. So they felt like it kind of came out of nowhere to solve the major problem of the book, just this thing that happens. And also, I think I've read elsewhere that he decided not to have Seons able to do that. So that was another reason to take it out, just because it's a part of the magic system he did not want to include. But anyway, so yeah, that was the original.
Well, when you were saying it's like, the original way this is play out, I think my mind just straight away gone to, oh god, the Mad Prince was going to show up and try and take off Dilloff's head and he was going to miss or something, but that would give Raiden enough of an opening to finish him off.
That would have been awesome.
No, it wouldn't.
Yes, it would have been amazing. Dilloff's like, what the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? Oh my gosh. Okay. But he ends that annotation with like, it pays off to have a good editor. So Galadon shows up and everything's done. Raoden is trying to heal Serene, but in the fight, both of his hands got messed up by Dilloff, so he can't draw Aeons with his hands anymore. So he has to explain to Galadon how to draw the healing Aeon to heal his hands so he can heal Serene. The Armada managed to get out there, and they seem to be doing well in the fight, so that's good. And Galadon's like, dude, you are so lucky. And Ron's like, well, I mean, you followed me, right? He's like, well, yeah, after Aish told us that you made it, because we're not crazy like our king. And Serene's just sitting there like, okay, somebody's going to start explaining to me what the hell is going on right now. Oh, that girl. And then we cut to a wedding. Serene's straightening up Rowden's jacket. He's like, aren't you supposed to go through, like, you're supposed to be in the chapel praying alone or whatever? Isn't that, like, the tradition? She's like, look, I did that, and for some reason my potential husbands keep disappearing, so I'm going to keep an eye on you until this is done. All right? All right. And he's calling her Lecky Stick like her dad does, which I feel is a little weird to take your fiance's
your
nickname for
father-in-law's
his daughter. And
Yeah,
use it with her.
100%. That is weird.
We see that Ian is okay now because he comes in. It's like, it's time, my lord, my lady. So that answers if anyone had a question about whether the seance got better. There's your answer.
For some reason, I pictured him coming in and he's got a voice like Christopher Lee.
Yeah, I
have no idea why.
For some reason, in my mind, he sounds really young. But I'll go with yours. Yours works.
Maybe it's just like it's a stoic voice, and it's like, oh man, like Christopher Lee, like when he sounds stoic is like something to listen to. So
Sure.
I don't know.
Sorry, I'm just thinking about Saruman now.
Well, wasn't always stoic.
Oh man, that guy. We get into the wedding, and he's like, yeah, Father Omen's super long-winded. Rowden kind of stops paying attention. He's thinking about all the other stuff that happened. They had a piece of bone that they'd retrieved from a dead feudal monk. It looked like a piece of carved ivory or a bundle of engraved wooden rods all twisted together. And the symbols on it were ancient feudal characters. Drethi monks had devised their own version of Aeon Dor. And so
Which
he
that's
mentioned...
what you want to think about in your wedding.
Right. Yeah, bones from dead guys. He mentions in the annotations, he's like, so I put a lot of the loose threads in here. The most important one, of course, being the concept that Fjorden has gained access to the door, presumably recently. The Decor are a newer development. Wyrn was just getting ready to use them against Elantris when the city fell on its own. Dilloff was not the only Decor plant inside Erelon, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, I think I've given myself plenty of room for sequel here. There are questions about the door, about Fjorden, about Seance. So that's all stuff that he will want to touch on if he does another one. He thinks about the fact that if a few more of those monks had the power to, shrug off aeons, then that battle might have ended very differently. But given that you have to kill 50 people for it, I guess it is hard to get a lot of people equipped that way.
Could be no one left.
Right? So we know that, I guess, being burned or stabbed and stuff was not enough. When Elantris came back, all that healed. Head chopped off like Karada, that was a little far. You can't come back from that. So Karada's gone. Ian claims to remember nothing of his time of madness, but he seemed a little bit different. He thinks about Shuden's Cheishan dance and the fact that people had said that they saw him glowing as he fought. Rowden was beginning to suspect that there was more than one way to access the door, far more, and one of those methods was in the hands of the most brutal, domineering tyrant in Opalon, Wyrn Wolfden IV, Regent of all creation.
Albus, Wulfric, Ryan, Percival, Dumbledore. Wyrn. I said it in the wrong order, but...
Albus, Percival, Wulfric, Brian, Dumbledore. Serene notices that he's not paying attention and elbows him in the middle of their wedding in front of everyone. And the wedding's done. They have a kiss. And he's like, was that everything you were hoping for?
Oh, so...
Yeah, I was really hoping for my husband not to pay attention.
Right.
So there's a bit here where it says, oh, Andon must be okay, because she says, oh, I've got a thing that Tarn carved.
Oh, you're right.
So he at least came back.
Good. I was hoping him and Marishi made it out okay.
No, I'm sure Marishi just the body that was left behind was just the decoy he whipped up, and now he's traveling the countryside. He made it out okay.
He's cruising around in like a car he made out of like spare parts.
Yep.
And we get to end it on this cheesy line where she's like, there's something I've been looking forward to even more than my wedding, the wedding night. And
gross.
Yeah. It was a cheesy line.
Yeah. Oh, man. Okay, so we get into the epilogue, and it says the day was warm and bright. They're burying people that they've lost in this recent fight. Elantris has been revitalized. Serfdom proclaimed illegal. It's been a week since the wedding. Rowden let all the nobility keep their titles, but he made it so that each lord is a servant of Elantris, and he charges them with caring for people in different parts of the country. They are less aristocrats and more food distributors. Which that's nice, I guess. You give them something that they're supposed to do to help people. That's probably the way that should work. I like that we're reminded many times that both Rowden and Galadon have transformed, but since Galadon had darker skin in the first place, his skin looks like iron instead of the very silvery light skin of Rowden. And he's still bald when everyone else has grown hair, and he's like, yeah, I've been bald since I was 30, so I guess it just feels right.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Rough, buddy.
We find out that Adian had been an Elantrian for like 5 years, and the family decided to cover it up with makeup instead of throwing him into Elantris. I'm surprised more families didn't do something like that. If you actually care about your kid, I don't think you want to throw him in Elantris.
Yeah, I think there's enough superstition, religious superstition going on to keep them from doing that. But yeah, I think more than just Keen's family would probably have done that.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing to say that other people hadn't done that, so
Right, that's true.
I guess it's also a matter of, like, it probably had to be nobility who could pull it off with the makeup, because, like, the poorer families wouldn't have the resources to do that unless they just hit him in the cellar or something.
Yeah. Guess when your dad is Driok Crushthroat, you
Yeah.
can do whatever you want.
Yeah, nobody's going to mess with him. He'll collapse his entryway.
Driok Crushthroat and his amazing makeup kit.
Yeah.
Well, he'll make you some dinner, and then you'll forget why you showed up in the first place to ask about his kid.
Yeah.
But speaking of which, she sees
Dumb
Keen over
thing.
there. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, the dumb thing that popped into my head when you started talking about that is like, he invites you for dinner and you don't leave, because when he starts a food fight, he's got that much food, he'll kill you with it all. It just keeps going and going and going until, like, you've had 4 or 5 pot roasts just knock you unconscious and then you're gone.
Okay.
I don't know why that came into my head.
Pot roast can knock
I don't
you
know why you're
unconscious.
losing it.
I don't either.
But
Pot roasts are pretty hefty.
she can't get an answer out of Keen or her dad about what happened. Neither of them wants to talk about it, but she's beginning to suspect that Keen was in fact the older brother and that Eventeo stole the throne from him. Which is, he told you that already, so I don't know why you're like, oh, I suspect this. Count Ahan shows up with his daughter, and apparently he is very different since his death, and has lost, since Royal's death rather, and has lost an alarming amount of weight. The others have not forgiven him for his part in the Duke's execution. So he lost all his buddies at the same time. So they buried Royal, Eondel, Karada, and a grave for Saolin, even though there's no body for him.
Yeah. They say Iodon too, right? Like next to his grave. That's where they buried them.
Up where he was, yeah.
No mention of Telri, which,
Yeah, who
Presumably
cares
they
where
just
that guy
threw his
ended up?
body into the chasm.
Yeah, right.
I mean, technically, though, Telri hadn't actually done anything yet, had he? I mean, he was waiting for Wern to make him a Gion, but...
I mean, he killed Royal. I guess that's the big thing
Well,
they'd be like
true.
against.
Yeah, true.
Also, he was an asshole, so just nobody likes him. It's fine.
Yeah. I forgot that he killed Royal. Yes, you're right.
Even before that, nobody
Sure.
liked him.
Yeah.
Tarina's is, like, his daughter's still around and presumably is back together with Shuden, so, like, yeah, let's not just desecrate the body while his daughter's still here.
No, Trina's Ahan's daughter. And Ahan's
Yeah, no, sorry, I got that completely mixed up. Disregard.
Do we know? Have we seen Shuden since that fight? Did he make it?
No. So, I mean, they don't. I thought about that several times. They don't say. So they say he gets hit in the head.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know if that kills him, and then he is never brought up again.
Interesting. I feel like if he died, he would be here, like buried up here with the others. So he probably made
I think
it.
so.
Yeah. Maybe they did mention him offhandedly on a page, but I didn't notice.
Oh, yeah, no, there is here in the epilogue, Raiden is talking to Shuden and Lukel, and Serene's watching him.
Yep.
Oh,
Sure
that's
enough.
right.
You're right.
You guys are right. Don't listen to me.
I'm the guy who just got Ahan and Telri mixed up, dude. It's okay.
That's true. Yeah. Had a long day.
But they also have a grave up here for Horathan of Fjorden, High Priest and Holy Giorn of Shudareth. They left his funeral for last. And so Serene gets up and makes a speech about how she thought that you could know a man by being his enemy, but she understood a lot about stuff about this guy, but she did not see his internal conflict. She could not know the heart of a man that drove him to reject all he had once believed in the name of what he knew was right. When you remember this man, think not of an enemy. Think of a man who longed to protect Erlon and his people. Red and Serene would both be dead if he hadn't shown up. In fact, all of you would probably be fighting for your lives or dead if it weren't for this guy. And the book ends with, let it be said after all else that he was not our enemy, he was our savior. Which, if you remember, is exactly the beginning of his first chapter, where he's like, their savior had just arrived and they didn't know it yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's okay, I guess. It's kind of a weird way to end this particular story. And I think that was maybe the worst part about the ending for me. It's like the entire focus of the end of the story is like, Rathan was a good guy. Like, I don't...
In my head, it makes sense to have, because we had 3 main characters, and now we only have 2 main characters left, so they spend the end talking about the one that's not there anymore.
I guess.
It was just the savior line, I think, that did it for me. I was like, like, yeah, okay, he definitely helped. And,
Yeah.
you know, he was true to who he was.
Yeah.
But was he really the savior?
Yeah, and I mean, I know he's just trying to bookend it with what he said at the beginning in his first chapter, but at the same time, it just doesn't fit. It's like, and I don't have as much of a problem with this because not all the focus is on that character, but it's like at the end of Harry Potter when he's like, "You're named after one of the bravest men I ever knew." It's like, okay, yeah, Snape was brave, but he was still like a jerk.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
always
right.
gets to me too. I'm like, no matter why he did what he did, he was an asshole constantly, and he didn't have to be. Like, that was
No.
his choice.
Yeah, it was definitely his choice to act the way that he did. And so I feel like Hrathen's arc is somewhat similar. I would say Hrathen wasn't always a jerk. He just had like very strong beliefs and he was doing what he thought he needed to do to get those things done. But you know, it's very reminiscent to me of that.
I can see that.
We never saw Hrathen abuse people for kicks,
It's true.
like Neville.
Neville didn't abuse. No, I get what you're saying. I'm kidding.
I mean, he was ruthless though, and you know, he did what he needed to do to get things done. Like if he had to kill one person, he probably would have done it.
Mhm.
You know,
Oh, yeah,
he
100%.
still like faked Serene being an Elantrian. It's one thing to do it to yourself, but to do it to her as well, where she could have actually been in some real danger.
Yeah, like he
Yeah.
thought that was like a cutthroat place where they would kill you as soon as look at you, and he didn't hesitate to send her in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
And then he did have to incapacitate some guys coming after his food at one point.
You can make the self-defense argument there, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it just goes
Well,
to
no,
the
I
whole,
just meant like, yeah,
he knows how dangerous it could potentially be.
exactly.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
what I was, yeah.
Yep. Okay, well, that is the end of this book. We have finished our 4th full Sanderson book. How exciting is that?
Ooh.
Wowzers.
So we can go into some predicaments if you have something, or we can also, you know, do at the same time if you have some favorite moments from the book that you want to touch back on, or what did you like or dislike most. We can roll that all into our predicament section for today, since you don't have that much that you can predict about what's coming next. You could try. I mean, feel free to come up with the craziest predictions you care to, but just what do you guys think?
I don't have any predictions. I don't really know what's coming. All I would think would be it would be nice to know more about the magic systems, which it sounds like if Brenda was ever going to write another book, that would come up. It's all right, Bobby. Shh, shh, shh. Really? Now is the time you decide to wake up. Okay. Shh, shh, shh. Sorry. Someone else jump in. I'll come back.
All right, I'll jump in. So yeah, I don't have any predicaments per se. I'm very interested to know what we're going to be reading next because I still don't know. But no, I enjoyed this book. I would say as a standalone book, it's to me a little more successful than the Final Empire, even though I would say if I had to say which one I liked more, I liked the Final Empire more, but as a standalone book, I feel like this one's a little more successful.
Okay.
So for that reason, if I'm going to rate this book out of 10, I'm going to give this one a 6.8 out of 10 for me. That's I can't quite give it a 7. I'm going to say 6.8. It's pretty good. I like a lot of the interactions between the characters. I think the hardest part for me with a lot of the Sanderson books are the abrupt endings, and then also the focus at the very end of the book seemed a little off to me. And I don't know what it was. I just don't feel like the 3-story pattern with each character was quite as successful as I would have liked. I just didn't. There were times when it really put me off reading. I'm like, ugh, I have to read another Hrathen chapter. And I like Hrathen, so, and it kind of was weird to me when we got a little more than halfway through the book, and then his chapters became like they became shorter and almost like not super important, or at least they didn't seem like they were super important. So the pacing, even though I know that's kind of Brandon's thing, the pacing in this book just seemed kind of weird to me. but I liked the story. I liked the characters. And so, yeah, overall, I'd say it's a good book.
Okay. Makes sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I can really make much in the way of predictions. I feel like there is definitely a lot of room here for a sequel. I mean, obviously, like you've got it really does feel like Wern is basically it's like finishing the first Star Wars movie and knowing that the Emperor is still out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like obviously, like the Emperor only got mentioned a couple of times, like once or twice in A New Hope, but it's effectively the same thing. It's like the person responsible for the Empire is still out there. So yeah, I feel like you could easily expand into more and learning more about Wern and the Fjord Empire as a whole. I guess if I had to make some assumptions, it's like, well, Darkor Monastery is gone now. Because it seems like most of their guys got wiped out. It's a pain in the ass process to make them, and their Gragdet is dead. So maybe the Fjordals have lost quite a lot of their power from like their most feared of monasteries is now impotent, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Inert.
I didn't even consider that's their super scary monastery, and most, if not like all those guys, are now gone. And we know that apparently each of these bone transformations or whatever requires like deaths, and the more powerful the power they're giving you, the more deaths it required. So that was a lot of lives invested in these guys, like 50 just for the one power on the one guy, right?
Yeah.
So that is a lot of investment, just like poof, gone. That's a good point.
It's like the Inquisitors. It's like, you have to have a fresh person for each new spike being driven into their body. So
Yep.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of the Lord Ruler saying, like, do you know how hard it is to replace those?
Yeah. It's like Wern's just sitting in his office and someone comes in and is like, sir, everyone from Darkor is dead. And Wern's just like, what? Do you know how many people we had to kill to make those? God damn it.
He just
you need to conquer
sighs.
another nation just to...
Yeah, he just sighs. He's just like, round up the peasants.
Yeah. But yeah, like as for the book itself, like I liked it. It was pretty good. Like I said, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the others, but it's also like we read 3 books which I really liked all back to back that were part of one series. This is the first one we've read that isn't a part of that series. So and so of course we're going to be comparing it to what we've already read and just how that goes. I think like I said, I think that there are quite a few missed opportunities in this book which just weren't as interesting to me. Not saying that makes the book worse, but from my perspective, I just didn't enjoy reading it as much as the previous. So there's that.
Sure.
And I agree with Joe. I think that the 3 chapter system, like the triads, it started okay, but as the book went on, especially for some of Hrathen's chapters, it really felt like they were just thrown in there to adhere to the triad system. It's like, oh, I've got to have a Hrathen chapter here, even though there's really nothing to say in it. And then at the end, like, it just started flashing back and forth between, like, those 3 characters and a few other characters as well. And it's like, well, you may as well not have had the triads because we just thrown it out.
Right.
So. Yeah, it was the ending almost seemed jarring because we were so used to this different way of
Yeah, I think that's
reading.
The point. It's supposed to seem like things are falling apart and stuff as everything goes nuts.
No, I mean, I get that. But at the same time, like, as a reader, it's you get confused then because you're like, okay, wait, what's happening now? Like, what's going? Like, you have to make sure your readers. Yeah, exactly. You have to make sure your reader's still able to understand what the hell is going on.
Yeah, it just seemed like I understand it's like to seem more chaotic and everything's going to hell, but when you've established a structure and then at the last minute you just knock that structure down, it's like, oh, okay, well, what was the point in having the structure to start with?
You built this like house of cards, and then you're just like, knock that crap over.
Yeah.
So on the since you brought it up on the topic of potential sequels, I've got what Brandon said like years ago when this book first came out. He's like, if I do a sequel, this is probably what it will be like. And of course, like I said, this is like 10, 15 years ago, something now. So if he actually does one, it may be completely different. But I thought it would be interesting to touch on. He says the book would take place 10 years after the events of Elantris, and it would occur in the capital city of Fjorden. It would star Keen's children as the viewpoint characters, along with a Seon viewpoint character. The plot of the book would be Wern has declared that Jadeth is going to finally return. A new interpretation of the scriptures says he'll return when everyone east of the mountains converts, so that now they don't have to worry about Teod and Erelon. Keen's family are ambassadors to the Fjordal state and have to deal with the chaos of this announcement and investigate the truth behind Decor magic. He also says that the Seon viewpoint character would probably be Hrathen Seon, who is now Adian's Seon.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, so just something that popped into my head to tell you all about when you were mentioning like the potential sequel stuff.
Yeah, it sounds okay, I guess.
I would read that.
Yeah. Also, sounds like capitalizing on the fact that like early on it seemed like Casey was going to be a really major character, and then she just really disappeared towards.
Yeah,
the end.
she really did.
I mean,
We didn't see her
again,
at all.
makes sense. She's a 12-year-old child, so what's she really going to do against bone monks? But,
Yeah, she was the secret hero of the book, I thought.
yeah, just like Queen Eshin was the secret villain.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Jamie, it's your turn. If
Yeah,
you had
sorry
anything
about that.
additional. No, you're good.
So I don't remember what I said already. Well, we spoke about the triads. I agree. I actually really liked them at first. It was kind of nice when we had 3 different things happening, but I feel like, yeah, it wasn't really necessary once they started to sort of intertwine with each other. But I mean, I didn't hate it. I also really liked the choppy changiness of the end. I mean, it is a bit jarring against, having the triad system for so long. I guess if they'd sort of started in the triads and then, kind of weaned us off it a bit earlier, maybe it would have been less jarring. But I liked the fast-paced chop and change. It sort of just, for me, it creates that urgency as well. And it's like, don't forget this is happening and this is happening and this is happening, and it's exciting. And, I really liked that. I liked that on the whole we had good people mostly that we were following. We didn't have anyone that we were like, oh, like this guy. Again,
No
I really enjoyed. Sorry?
No straps.
No straps, yeah.
No straps, no spooks, no
Yeah.
Zane.
Spook wasn't a bad
no Zane.
person.
No Zane. Yeah, but he wasn't.
No.
He wasn't a good person to follow.
He was a little creepy by the end, but
Yeah, I know why you're sad.
I also just really enjoyed that there were sort of positive relationships. Serene's a strong female character. She had a really good relationship with her father, and then had also a really good relationship with her uncle. And I mean, not that we've seen too much since it came to light, or she's still suspecting whatever's happened between her father and her uncle, but she seems to still have a good relationship with both of them, which is nice. It's like it's their issue, not her issue sort of thing.
it's true.
I did like Hrathen's storyline. I thought that was really well done. Yeah, and just a bit of a different story for me. Again, I was fairly new to fantasy genre, starting with Mistborn, and it was nice to get just another story. But on the whole, I did enjoy the book. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as like Final Empire. I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than Well of Ascension. It just, I felt like that book dragged, and even though there was a lot of, I wouldn't say like politicking, I guess, in this book, there was a lot of talking, coming up with plans and things like that, but I feel like there was enough going on that sort of warranted them having to come back and talk about another plan or what else was going on. You'd sort of come up with a plan and it's like, oh wait, Iden's a sadistic killer. Okay, hang on, let's reset and figure this out. And yeah, I felt like there was a need to sort of keep coming back to these meetings, of these people. But again, it wasn't so overdone, which was really nice. And you weren't stuck on one particular part of the story for way too long either. Because when you think about it, we actually packed a lot into this book.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of craziness. A lot of stuff happens.
A lot of stuff. Like it did move quite rapidly. So
It's
yeah,
not like
it's wrapped up pretty well.
It's not like a super action-filled book, but you're right. Lots of like stuff happens.
Yeah, like obviously we've got the time. They've gone to Teod in the end, but there's that time that Hrathen was in Elantris, and then Serene was in Elantris, and all that time before Serene was in Elantris. There's a hell of a lot of stuff. And I mean, this is only the 4th Sanderson book we've read, but I really do enjoy that those little nuggets that have been put into the story earlier that do come back. Everything does have a significance somewhere, It's not just putting stuff in for the sake of putting stuff in. Like, I think he's pretty good at that, bringing it all together in the end. I mean, yeah, there's some things that you kind of like, why'd you bring that up if you weren't going to do anything with it? But for the most part, it does have significance down the line, which I like. You've got to be paying attention.
Yeah. Paying attention definitely helps. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess. So for next time, we're reading, it's 4 things that we're going to read. And you guys can pick whatever order you want to do them in, because they're really kind of 4 completely separate little things. But I will, the first thing starts directly after the epilogue that we just read. It's a section of the Ars Arcanum called On Aeon Door. And this is Chris, remember, writing all the Ars Arcanums. And she is discussing what her research of the magic on this planet has found out. And it's pretty short. It's like just a few pages. So that's the first thing. The second thing, like I told you guys before, is going to be, in my book at least, it's past the Ars Arcanum, past the deleted scenes, is it past the postscript? Yes, it is past the postscript. Let me figure out exactly how far past, if it's past about the author also. Oh, it is between what in my table of contents says postscript and about the author. It's in between those two. And it is another just a few pages of something happening. The third thing is going to be, we're going to jump over to Arcanum Unbounded, and it is the Cellish system. It's the essay about this system. And that is, let me look at it's like one of the first things in this book. It's like right after the preface of Arcanum Unbounded is the Cellish system essay. So we're going to read that essay where Chris is writing about the system and the planets in it, and some history of the influence of Shard on this planet and so on. So between the essay and the Ars Arcanum, you're going to find out a lot of information about the magic and Shardic influence here. So that'll be interesting. And then the fourth thing is also in Arcanum Unbounded. You're going to skip over the Emperor's Soul, which is right after the Cellish system, and go down to the short story called The Hope of Elantris. And it is a short story that takes place basically in the final section of, mostly in the final section of Elantris. It's actually kind of a flashback to this is what was happening to some other characters while you were watching the main characters. While stuff was happening. So those are the 4 things that we're going to read for next time. I'll pop that in our chat to hopefully, the one doesn't even have a title. It's just like hidden between those sections of that book. So I don't even know what to call it really, but
that's what I was about to ask, because I was scrolling through and I was like, I wonder if it's this thing. It doesn't have a title.
Yeah, it's a thing that does not have a title, and I don't know what it looks like in yours, even though I think you have the same version of mine, but
yeah, it's just like it just starts.
Yeah. Like you read the postscript about, he's talking about, 10 years ago I did this, and then it's after that's over, it's like Brandon Sanderson, February 2015, and then, hey, something starts. Just so that you can make sure you're identifying it correctly, the first word is Hoyd. So,
yep.
That is
Good buddy Hoyd.
Yep. So yes, that is for next time. We're not quite done with Elantris. We've got these little bits and pieces to collect here at the end for one more episode, but that is what we are doing next time. So yeah, 4, not really chapters, 4 things for next week. And then the week after that, we will be taking a step back in Ars Arcanum, and we will be starting our read through of The Emperor's Soul, which is a novella. So it's a little longer than a short story, but not quite a novel. My schedule says it will take us 4 weeks of reading to get through that one.
Like Sacred History.
Yeah, well, very similar in length to Secret History, yeah. And I think I've told you guys before, but it is a popular opinion, which I share as my opinion, that this may be the single best self-contained story that Brandon has written, is The Emperor's Soul.
Wow.
So I'm excited to read that one with y'all. I really love it. We'll see if you guys agree. If anyone would like to send us emails, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, all those sorts of places where things happen. I actually have a post on Instagram in a couple of weeks. I need to go back and do that. I've been distracted. But in that time, I also, got the YouTube up to date. So you can, I can maintain one social networking type platform at a time, apparently. Yeah. Anyway, So come back next time for our rounding out of Elantris related things, and then after that, moving into the Emperor's Soul. Send us emails and stuff. Like I said, I'm excited to get into Emperor's Soul, but this next episode has a lot of little details and stuff that I think you guys will find very interesting. So I'm excited about that one too. For us, I think it'll be a couple weeks before we record again. So, but for you guys, hopefully there will not be another pause. We'll be straight through. So come back for that. Wasing to the time of next. Colo, music by Miracle of Sound.
You got it.
Nice.
Yeah. I had to. I realized as I was saying the other thing that I'd forgotten that. So I was like, I think I gotta hurry up and get it before they call me on it.
My name's Epilogue. Get up, get out in the city of dreams. Get up, never setting you free. Get up, get out, the voice will never